Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 319. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@gmail.com. Christian, how's it going?
It's going great. We're here. I'm in my living room again. We're just going to try this because I think the old setup doesn't work. So now I'm wondering if I need to commit to my living room. My apartment is not big enough to call this a living room, to be honest. I don't think it's a living room. Is it?
Yeah.
Like I can scan and see the rest of the place. I don't know if it's not a studio, but like.
Isn't that like every one bedroom?
Open concepts are very in right now. I've always been more of a separate rooms guy. So like interior design kind of got away from me as a society because I preferred more individual rooms. But anyway, yes, I'm in my living room again. I'm wondering if I need to redecorate now and have like UCF themed things behind my couch since this is apparently where I do the podcast now. Hard to say.
Apparently, but I don't know. We had like a little bit of a choppy few seconds there before we did the podcast. So maybe it's too early to tell.
We're fine. Yeah, I think time will tell.
Where we're not fine is like, this shouldn't be the case. And I know that it's probably happened during football too, but I woke up this morning and after that UCF baseball game last night and the way it went, I was like, I don't want to do the podcast today. And we're not even really going to talk about baseball. It's just, I don't know. That left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Thankfully, basketball won last night, so I could kind of just like focus on that. But the basketball loss on Saturday was awful. And combining that with the way baseball lost on Tuesday, I was just like, I don't want to think about UCF right now. So here we are.
We've talked about before how you are a much bigger, is this fair to say? I think you're a much bigger UCF baseball fan than I am.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a big fan of all of the UCF teams, but like football matters a lot to me. Obviously, basketball is very close to football. Really, softball is in that group. And then there's a pretty big drop for how much I care about everything else. You said that. I forgot that baseball game happened last night, and I watched it. All I've thought about in recent hours was the men's basketball win. That's right. They did go to Miami and blow. What was it, 5-1 lead? 5-1 lead in the ninth inning? 5-0 lead in the ninth inning. Really? It was. I thought they had a.
It was 5-0 in the eighth, 5-2 in the ninth.
Sure. Yeah. And they lost in many extra innings. This is why I understand and hate the UCF fans when it comes to basketball, because I'm them for baseball. Like, I don't really understand baseball. It's not a sport I've ever really watched. I was thinking about this last night. I think it's fair to say that 80% or more of the baseball games I've watched in my life have been UCF baseball games, because I will watch a good chunk of their games. Not going to say most, but I'll watch a lot of their games. That's it for me. So I don't really understand it. And like my instinct is I watched last night and I was like, well, they have to fire Wallace. Like, obviously, like I do what the UCF fans do with basketball.
It's been a long running thing where like, I have told you that, where I'm like, you are to UCF baseball what a lot of these fans that we talk to or talk about on this podcast are to UCF men's basketball.
But then I got kind of redeemed because I was like this with Lovelady, but then they did it. And I was like, hold on a second. Like I might have forgotten about something.
But then I don't know.
All jokes is like, I'm joking a little bit, and we're not going to like recap the baseball game, but all like genuinely wildly questionable coaching. That is absolutely not what you want to see in your first real game after a season where you were questioned for your coaching the entire way through.
I think that yesterday made me madder at Wallace than I ever was at any point with Lovelady. So
surely by the third hit by pitch, you're like, got to make a change, right? Surely by the third. Do you think he was like, there's no way he does it a fourth time? That would be crazy.
Well, and then I don't even remember. I lost track now, like not thinking about it too much, but I lost track of the point where he challenged one of them. Might have been the fourth one that he challenged. And then he he's one of his warm-up pitches, he airmails to the backstop. At that point, you're like, all right, he's so rattled that like we can't do this. And yet he let him face the next guy who hit a game-tying single. Anyway, let's move on. I'm just getting mad again. Bad. We got a mailbag episode today. You guys sent us your traditionally insane questions, as you always do, including one from JP Gilbert that I'm not allowed to read on the podcast.
Yep.
JP, you know which one. But yeah, you want to just jump into it?
Let's do it. Always excited for your questions. You guys never fail to disappoint with the strange things on your mind. So let's do it.
somewhat unfortunately, another thing here is the other JP question just popped up first. So we'll start with JP, not the one that I can't read, but he says, pick one and only one. UCF in March Madness this year, and you don't know how far they advance, or 8 wins in football in 2026.
Go ahead, Bailey.
So I had way harder of a time with this one than I would have ever thought I would.
Same. That's why I made you go first.
My answer, I think, is still shocking because, and there's context to it, but I think I have to pick basketball for the simple reason that if they don't make the tournament at this point, it is a monumental collapse, and I would be very, very disappointed, and all of the Dawkins haters would be vindicated.
So it's funny you say that because I had the exact same logic, but because of that, I came to the opposite conclusion, and I picked football because in my head, they are so close to locking up. Like, I feel like it would just be a waste to pick it because they are playing. They're what? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Like UCF basketball is potentially only 1 win, at most probably 2 wins away from locking this up. And their next game is against a Utah team that's gone 1-11 in the Big 12 this year. So, like, I'm feeling pretty good about men's basketball. Football winning 8 would be levels of back we haven't seen in like 5+ years at this point. And so I think I can get both. I think that they're going to go to March Madness. It would be pretty shocking at this point if they don't.
But that's why I think we maybe understood the question differently, because when he says pick one and only one, I assume one or the other happens.
Oh, I fundamentally misunderstood the question then. Oh,
I don't know
basketball
for sure.
But well, then basketball. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I misunderstood it. Well, then, yeah, it's obviously basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, I if I had thought about it the way you would, I understand. And
I know I'm tempting fate at this point, but it would have to be such a collapse for them to not make it.
I don't want you to say anymore. I don't know. After we watched them blow that game against West Virginia, and then they didn't quite blow the game against TCU, but there were little hints of a run that TCU was trying to make in that game at certain points where
when they were up 19 TCU, they went on a 7-0 run, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, there is no goddamn way this is happening again. And then of course UCF, it was fine, nothing happened. UCF closed it out, but TCU for some reason decided to make the last minute of that game last like 30 minutes. Like the game was completely over, and TCU was just desperately do not foul when you're down 9. Like, what are we doing at that point? Just stop wasting our time. Stop wasting.
I honestly didn't even know. So I was watching both of those games, and I had checked out of the basketball game at that point because baseball was in the middle of just falling apart. And yeah, so I was focusing on that.
Yes, wish I pick those two. Then yeah, because also like, is it? Yeah, I don't know. This isn't. I was about to say a thing out loud that's kind of crazy, but like, I think a March Madness appearance for UCF men's basketball is going to mean more to me than an 8-win season for football would at this point, which I think is kind of crazy. But also, like, let's say that UCF football goes 8-4 next year, which I think is on the table. That would be great. We'd all be like, we're back. This is awesome. That would mean a lot to us and no one else. And they still have to figure out again in 2027. Like, that's not some like, Indiana or let's say Big 12, like Arizona State or BYU-esque seasons they've been having. It's just like, oh, good. We showed we can compete in the Power Four, and that's all it would mean. So, meanwhile, going to March Madness, especially with this roster and the way that tournament is set up, I do believe this team can do anything in the tournament. I also believe that playing through the absolute slogs that built them up well for the tournament, because I think there's a very good chance in the first round they may match themselves up against a team that is not all that different or even worse potentially than the teams they've been having to play week in and week out, game in and game out. So I'm excited to see what they do if and when they get to the tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. I know like we can't get ahead of ourselves, and I just even once they get or if they get to the tournament, I have to like pace myself. But just dreaming, like just if they went to the Sweet 16, like just imagine that kind of run, or I think obviously further.
I think if they made it to the Sweet 16, I think I would become the worst person to ever use Twitter. I think I would try to crush other people. Like I really would be. It's unlike anything you've ever seen from me. And I've done some victory laps on Twitter over the years. This would be
over the days.
This would be different over the days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. When UCF men's basketball lost 3 in a row and the entire fan base was like, can't believe we lost 3 in a row in the toughest conference in America. fire the coach, pack it up, season's over.
Yeah.
Whatever. I love that we have to do this every single time they lose a game in the toughest basketball conference in America, that we have to do a meltdown every time they lose a game. I think it's great. I'm a huge fan of you guys and your maturity levels. I like how I say that. I was tweeting really mean things, but still, I really you guys drive me insane. Can't see
what's obviously tough, and we'll move on to the next question in a second, but like what's obviously tough when you look at bracketology and all that stuff, like most things have them as an 8 or a 9 consistently. So you're looking at, if you win the first game, you're looking at a 1 seed, whatever region you're in, which is what happened last time. They faced and should have beaten a Duke team, and I'll post that tweet again that I always tweet, the levels of pain, being reminded of the Duke game, and it's just the body is entirely red. But that's the road you're likely going to face. But look, this could age horribly. They're at an 8 or 9 right now. You look at the rest of the Big 12 schedule. You think about how they still have to play the Big 12 tournament. I'm not convinced that they can't rise higher. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully so. Daniel Glass asks 2 questions. He says, who would win in a one-on-one basketball pickup game, Christian or Bailey? Have we ever played basketball together? Maybe like once?
I think we did in college once. We went with like Zach and were you there? Like me, Zach, Evan, and Sarah. These are all names none of you know.
I vaguely remember like at Night Circle.
No, this was at we went to like the rec center.
Huh.
Well, don't worry, listeners. It doesn't matter if it has happened. Bailey would kill me. Like, I don't think it would be. I am like a remarkably unathletic person, and I'm particularly bad at basketball, which is ironic because it's my favorite sport. Like, I'm very bad at it.
Is basketball your favorite sport?
Yeah, without a doubt. You know that. Okay.
Yeah, like I did. Like throughout the course of our friendship, I'd say I did know that, but I don't know. I feel like you care more about UCF football than anything else.
The matches are pretty close, but yeah, I do care about UCF football more than anything else. But the sport I enjoy watching the most is basketball. I'm not too cool with where the NBA is at these days, and I'm definitely much less of an NBA fan than I was 5 years ago. Shout out Adam Siller. But yeah, no, you would absolutely kill me. I think you would just like if you like posted up on me. I don't know what I'd do. Like,
I was gonna say like that's kind of what I'd have to do because I don't know. I don't remember the last time I played basketball.
Yeah.
My shot can't be anywhere. At a certain point, like I used to have this one spot that I was fairly automatic from. I haven't shot a basketball probably in 4 or 5 years now.
But you also do like I don't do anything athletic in my day-to-day life. And you will occasionally say things to me that like, hey, you weren't like you played sports in high school and I did not. I tapped out in middle school and was like, I should probably write about this instead. You'll randomly be like, oh, I went to like the batting cage or something. Yeah. Or like I don't do anything athletic. So I feel like it would not be competitive. You'd kill me.
More to the batting cage. Daniel Glass also asks, if Dawkins does retire at the end of the season, what will his legacy be? And do you envision UCF hiring another retread type coach or an up and comer from a smaller school?
There's like 6 questions packaged into one. First off, I just want to say, and I don't know if we haven't or if we've implied this or done a poor job of this. I don't get any sense that Dawkins retiring is on the table for this season. If they have a good season, I really highly doubt the end result is he rides off into the sunset. I think they're pretty clearly, when you look at some of the moves they're making for next season and things of that nature, I think he's pretty clearly planning to be here. Now, obviously, if like the tournament collapse we fear does happen, maybe that decision gets made for him. The more interesting question there is that next year's the final year of his contract, and it's like would be pretty unheard of in modern college basketball to be coaching in the final year of the contract. So if he does make the tournament, UCF's probably gonna have to extend him at that point. So I don't like just premise off the top. I really don't think a retirement is on the table. But anyway, for the sake of it, what would his legacy be? Do you think, Bailey?
It'd be one of those that would, if everybody would celebrate, then they would see how bad it gets under the next coach, and he in time he would be remembered a lot more fondly than he's been treated right now.
I do think that's the tough part, right? Because legacy is it's the idea of legacy in that word in general is completely separate from reality. Your legacy is how people remember you, and I do think that we're in an unfortunate place where there's a chunk of the fan base that is just determined to really hate him. And it's just been one of these things where it's been like the longest running UCF civil war of any topic in my entire life. And people are really dug in on both sides. And there are people who Like last night, I've got people in my mentions where UCF beats T. That was a must-win game for UCF, without a doubt. They could not afford to lose that game. And it was a must-win game for TCU as well. Even more dire because they're on the bubble. They needed that game to stay in contention. And UCF went out there in a must-win game, might I say, in front of a horrible crowd. Really sad to see a game that important. There just was almost no one there. And UCF just took care of business. They were in control the entire way. But like we said, there was in the middle of the second half, there was a brief moment where TCU wanted to run, but even then, it never got closer than like 12 until the final minutes. Yeah. And I've got people in mentions who are just trying to explain why Dawkins still sucks, because they've reached a point where they care more about being right about that than they do about the team having one of its better seasons ever. One of its best seasons ever is what this is turning into. And that's really disappointing because that just shows to me that there's nothing that can happen. Like, they can go to the Sweet 16 like we talked about. Chunk of the fan base is just always going to hate Dawkins because, unfortunately, they're stupid. I don't know how else to say it. I'm sorry. Like, just wildly misinformed on the sport of college basketball, talking out of their ass, don't know anything about what they're saying, but Twitter has normalized a person's belief that they're allowed to weigh in as an expert on any subject they care to. And they just spew nonsense. So, yeah, I think Dawkins' legacy is never going to be good here because a chunk of the fan base is just determined to hate him because they don't know what they're talking about.
So that's why I said in time, I think his legacy would age better among that section of the fan base. And I was laughing a second ago when you said, like, you'd think they make the tournament, he gets an extension. Like, if they make the tournament and then he does get an extension, there will still be people that are mad.
They'll be pissed he gets an extension. Yeah. They're going to be like, I know the talking point. They're going to go, why wouldn't he just retire? Like, he finally had a season that didn't.
Or they would say,
retire and let us go get an up-and-coming coach.
Yeah, up-and-coming coach.
The up-and-coming coach thing, and I know that's not how Daniel Glass meant it, to be totally fair in his question, but like that's one of the wildest misconceptions consistently for the basketball program that the fan base has, is the belief that this is in any way an attractive job. It's not. There is not. It's a big deal. I even got Dawkins back in the day. There is not a deep candidate pool for this job in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't have any advantages. You have to play one of the hardest schedules in the country, and you have to do so with a limited NIL budget, not very good facilities, fan base that really doesn't exist in any meaningful way. It's not an ideal job. It's not a stepping stone job even. It's just a job you don't want. It's a job you go to fail. And that's why I get so frustrated with the Dawkins discourse, because when you talk about legacy, let's look at what his legacy should be. He took over a program that when he came in 10 years ago, they were 37-54 in the 3 years prior to his arrival. They hadn't made the tournament in more than a decade. It should be noted that they'd never made the tournament from a legitimate conference or, as not an auto bid. It had just been that they'd won the Atlantic Sun a couple times. So they got to go. Since they've been in Conference USA and in the American, they've never done anything of note. When he showed up, they'd been at the D1 level for about 30 years. They had 19 seasons with a losing record, I believe, in those 30 years. They had 2 top 25 wins in the program's entire history. He's in double digits. And by the way, people try to say that's just because he's in the Big 12 and playing more teams. No, he got like 5 of those in the AAC. Like, he showed up, season 1 has them at 24 wins. Season 3 has them in the tournament. And what's frustrating is that's the point in time where UCF should have said, hey, there might be something here. We should invest and build on this. But instead, they remained one of the most underfunded programs in the American. And what Dawkins settled into was year in and year out, they were a solid team that was competitive and always had a shot, would likely go to a postseason tournament like the NIT or the Crown, always had an outside shot at March Madness and would beat teams that they shouldn't beat. But at the end of the day, when you're playing, everyone on your schedule has more money and resources than you in the American. As a reminder, before we even get to the Big 12, they were capped out at a certain point. And like I said, on top of that, the fan base has just never been there. So his legacy, his actual real legitimate legacy is always did more with less and always provided more than he should have. And yeah, unfortunately, I do think if UCF has success this year, like if they go to the tournament and the fan base gets really hyped, UCF might be able to make something of that. And maybe this is a turning point for the program and some real money comes in and things change from there. But if not, then yeah, he's going to leave. They're going to have a really hard time finding another coach. Whoever they hire is not going to do as good as him. And that'll be that. That's what's going to happen.
There's no 2015 Scott Frost. Like, that's not the type of job you can land a guy like that. No. You can't do that.
And there's no selling point for this job. There just isn't. There's no selling point. There are no advantages to this job other than it's in the Big 12.
What is it, too? I know he has the best winning percentage of any UCF coach ever.
Yep.
And he's pretty far behind on like the all-time wins leader, but that's also because he's coached like 7 fewer years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at win percentage, and he's, I think, almost 50 points higher than Kirk. So, like, I don't know. It will always frustrate me, and I know like we do this every week and we do this all the time, and it's just been one of those things that I don't know why we're stuck in this kind of constant cycle of doing it. But I also, at the same time, as frustrating as it is, don't really mind it because I believe that strongly in what he's done and the job he's done and the way he's done it.
Yeah, and like I said, we've had conversations before, like off the air, even like a year ago, where I was like, we got to stop doing this because I know there's a chunk of the audience that really hates when we do this. And it's also I think even unfortunately, the chunk of the audience that agrees with us, it's just kind of beating a dead horse at a certain point. And I know we probably shouldn't have gone down this rabbit hole, but it's just, I never fathomed we'd get to the point where I can't believe this. Like if I told 2023 me that they'd be in the Big 12, they'd be 18-7, they'd be a win or two away from locking up a tournament spot. And I still have people in my mentions saying Dawkins sucks. It's just, it's hard not to go down this rabbit hole because of how frustrating. Like, I think what bothers me on a personal level is I am obviously a very big fan of his team that has probably come through on this podcast. And I don't like that I have to deal with people who do not care about this team. You're not really fans of this team. You don't even watch the games. I see people who clearly don't watch the games. They literally just are UCF football fans, which is fine, but they're scrolling on social media and see a basketball score they don't understand and think that gives them the right to weigh in on where the program should be. And I like for people like me who care about the team and have followed this team for many, many years, and it was going to games when I was a little kid, it annoys me that I have to deal with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, rant over. I'm good.
Similarly, I think we can kind of breeze over this one. Dolly Drama asks, thoughts on Adam Hood as head coach in waiting? I'm not entertaining head coaches in waiting right now.
Actually, yeah, because that's interesting because Adam Hood is a really good assistant and has been a big part of the revitalization in the Big 12 era. I just don't think this sense that Dawkins is going to retire is a real thing. So I just don't think that's an issue.
Night Hand Luke asks, if UCF could be elite at one thing as a program, recruiting, player development, identity, etc., which would have the biggest impact long term?
Uniforms. You argue they already are. So
yeah, I mean that's what I was going to say. It's like that's the thing, but I guess recruiting.
So I was going to say it's such a boring vanilla answer, but to me, I think it is obviously recruiting because if you're elite at recruiting, that's not just about like in me. That doesn't mean in my head, oh, it's like you're playing the video game and you could just like cheat and get 5 stars. That to me is more in line with if they were a truly elite recruiting program where they could identify guys that other programs have missed on, that they could make pitches to guys that would convince them to take less money than they might get elsewhere to sell them on fit, on vision, on playing time, on playing style. And they were able to do all that consistently, recruit to recruit, class after class. I don't think there's anything that would more beneficially impact the program on any scale than that. Yeah. So it's a poor answer, but I do feel like
it is. And I liked your answer from our Pegasus podcast account of is being wealthy a thing you can be elite at, because that's also just like the right and also the boring answer because everything is run by money right now and that's the way it is now. But I mean, even looking at these other ones, like player development unfortunately means less in this era because players can just leave whenever. So yeah, I mean, it's recruiting. It has to be.
Yeah, it kind of does have to be.
Can
you be elite at fundraising? Is that how I can get my wealthy answer?
Maybe. Yeah, probably.
Elite at bank robberies? I don't know. Like there's a lot of ways you can.
The best way of wording it. Be elite at, I guess the TDT money is less about players and more about, but I don't know. Being elite at just finding sources of revenue.
Be elite at locking boosters in a room and not allowing them out until their checkbooks have been handed over in full.
Yeah. Right hand Luke also asks, would you rather have a top 10 offense and average to below average defense or a top 20 defense and an average offense?
So I know the answer to this because we did this in back-to-back seasons. 2020 UCF was an electric offense, like really electric. Dylan Gabriel, Marlon Williams, Greg McCrae, Otis Anderson. Like that team was so freaking fun. And the defense was was that the worst defense UCF's fielded since 2015? It has to be, right? It was awful.
Yeah,
they allowed more than 30 points a game. And in their defense, they were killed by opt-outs. Some players got kicked off the team midseason. It was a whole thing. And then in 2021, we had an offense that couldn't function and a defense that was close to elite, and they were winning games like 14-10. Having done those back-to-back, surprising myself, but I would pick having the good defense and the bad offense because in my head, no one likes watching bad offense, but man, watching Dylan Gabriel just freaking cook and them having these incredible 50-plus point games and it meaning nothing because every time the defense was on the field, they couldn't stop any team they played was so hellish and bothered me so much. I just can't do that again.
I think that's a fair answer. And I think if you had asked me this in 2022, I would have agreed. And I probably should still agree. But I'm far enough removed from that and close enough to what we saw last season that I would go the other way and say, hey, let's just have an elite offense and an average. Because that defense, it was an average. He's asking, an elite offense, top 10 offense, or an average to below average defense. That 2020 defense was not average or below average. They were
terrible. It's a good point.
One of the worst I've seen. So this past season, UCF's defense, they weren't top 20, but they allowed 23.5 points per game. 20th was 19.2, so they were 4 points off from being in that 20th. Meanwhile, the offense was 88th, averaging 24.3 points per game. The top 10 offense was the 10th offense was Ole Miss and Oregon at 37 points per game. So, yeah, I think even if you're dropping last year's defense a little bit and they're giving up 25, 26 points per game, I'd take the offense scoring 38, 40 points per game. I also just miss that.
It's true. 2020, it's a good point. 2021, like I was talking about, we'd just gone through an era where UCF had 4 seasons of the best offense ever. It's been a minute since they had an offense that wasn't, bad.
The 2025 offense had me oddly yearning for the 2023 offense, which is so bad.
2023 offense wasn't terrible, in all honesty.
No, it wasn't. But
line was solid. It was basically just quarterback issues, like injuries and stuff. It wasn't even like JRP playing badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. Can they just be good at both?
Nope. Sorry.
That's my answer.
They never have, truthfully. Like even in 2017, I don't know why we're 27 minutes. We have a billion questions. I don't know why I'm taking this farther down.
Well, the 2017 defense had they were an opportunistic defense. They weren't an elite defense.
Perfect way to describe it.
They had playmakers though that could make plays.
There were some individual NFL level guys who took that defense to a level it probably didn't belong at.
Yeah. This is a funny question coming from the UCF president of hating. What is your favorite personality trait of your co-host? Do you want to go first?
You go first.
Well, personality
trait. I don't have many good ones. I'm curious what you'd even say.
Well, so my answer as far as personality trait is you are a very good friend.
Am I really?
Yeah, you're a very good friend.
No idea.
If I was just looking at it from a podcast co-host perspective, I like that you are in tune with all of the stuff I don't really care about, and you keep me informed, and that's why the podcast, I think, remains up with the times, because some of the stuff I just do not care, and you read and listen to everything. So I like that as far as like the podcast centric answer. But yeah, no, you're a great friend.
I feel like I'm in a monthly review of my job right now. That was really nice. My favorite non-personality trait podcast, but this is like we're kids and we had a fight and the teacher's making us like say something nice about each other.
Yeah, say something you like about the other one.
What's funny is I'm going to say your favorite trait is something that I've repeatedly told you I want to change about you. And it's, you are straight up, of all the people I've met in my life, like close friends, acquaintances, one of the flat out kindest, most like empathetic people I've ever met. And you really are, like, to a shocking level. But what I'm laughing saying this because obviously that's an incredible trait for you. But like, I repeatedly tell you that I want you to be 10% meaner. Like I say this to you all the time.
It was funny that you prefaced that with, I do sometimes tell you that I want to change this about you. And then you're like, you're really nice.
But I do at least once. I feel like at least a couple times a month, I will explicitly text you or tell you in person, like, you'll tell me a thing that you did or how you were kind to someone. And I'm like, I need you to be 10% meaner. Like I need you to get
I'll get myself into situations where, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Where like I'm so kind. Like, well, I don't mean to like say that about myself, but like,
but you genuinely, guys, like if you don't know him outside the show, like he is genuinely one of the kindest human beings I've ever come across. Like to strangers, to like, you are just a very kind person.
That's the funny thing is like you say outside, like if you don't know him outside of the show, and now I'm thinking like, I know obviously people who only know us through the show probably between the two of us would say that you're the one who's the asshole. But like they also, I don't feel like I don't know. I feel like sometimes I come across also like I know everything, and like I feel like I don't come across overly nice on this show.
I think that's fair, but I think we just have to the people we have to deal with because of this show. Like, there's like I've said before, there's like 15% of this fan base that I'm just like, guys, I don't know what we're doing. Like, I really don't.
I love how we turned that question into this fan base sucks, man.
Wow, this has been like an episode of therapy on the podcast. But anyway.
This other question is scary because I think I know the answer. If you were stranded on a desert island with your co-host, but they're made out of Olive Garden breadsticks or whatever food Bailey likes, how long before you eat them?
I mean, it's immediately, right? Like, I don't, right?
You don't wait till you're like at least hungry?
Dude, you know this about me. I'm always hungry. I know,
we don't just like hang out for a little bit first. Like,
I'm trying to imagine you made I mean, I guess I'd have to learn more about your anatomy as this breadstick person. Like, can I take your arm and you're fine? Because if so, like, yeah, I'm going to pretty quickly.
I love that. Like, my first blush on this question is just going to vindicate what you said about me needing to be meaner. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to eat my friend. That would be mean.
and my answer was I would immediately do it without hesitation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I would just be like, I'd probably just die. I don't know.
if you're made of breadsticks, what's your quality of life? I feel like I'm doing you a favor at that point. Plus,
yeah,
water, like, you could get soggy. I don't know. I just feel like at that point the decision's been made.
I don't really know.
That might be the weirdest question we've ever gotten in 5 years of doing this podcast and doing
It probably is.
Yeah. If your friend was made of breadsticks and you're on an island, would you eat that friend?
Or whatever food that I like.
Or whatever food. What is your favorite food? Like, I don't know. I feel like Latin food is like your cuisine of choice. Yeah.
Probably.
There we go. We're learning a lot about ourselves in this podcast. But anyway.
A third question from UCF President of Hating. Will Frost work?
I think he works every day.
So we get those two questions. We get, hey, be nice to each other, and also, would you eat the other person if you had to? Then we get, will Frost work?
Yep. Okay, then. Thanks, UCF President of Hating, for that trio.
Inside the mind of UCF President of Hating. I don't know. Talk about this like a lot. I hope so, but
I find myself like. So this is actually interesting. You just talked about how I consume everything. And one example of that was I was listening to a podcast, The College Football Inquirer, which is like Andy Staples, Ross Dellinger, Stephen Godfrey, guys who, if you're into college football, you know the names. And they did an episode on the Bill Moose stuff that we talked about last week. And they were talking about the Frost immature stuff. And Godfrey on the podcast said that he interviewed Frost in 2015 when he was the Oregon offensive coordinator, or 2014. It was a little earlier. It was 2014, I think. And he said that just from the interview, he was struck by, God, this guy is so immature. So he's not surprised that was Moose's reaction. And I guess, and everyone just kind of agreed. And they were all like it was funny. Their takeaway was very different from ours, and it reminded me how our biases creep in, because they were all kind of like, yeah, we totally believe that he was unimpressed by Frost. And they talked about like how Moose mentioned how he showed up like scraggly, like he wasn't clean shaven and he was just in sweats. The point that I still, and they just passed that over. The point, like from a UCF fan's perspective of why that comment confuses me is he was on the road for a UCF game in Philadelphia because they were playing Temple. I don't think he was going to, like, if he'd shown up like freshly showered, shaven in a suit and headed out the door, wouldn't someone at UCF be like, where are you going, man?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be like kind of a red flag?
That criticism has, for the whole last week and a half or whatever, stood out as the dumbest and most confusing, because even aside from the point of, yeah, wouldn't that raise some alarms if he's walking out of the hotel in the night in a suit and freshly clean shaven? Like, he's on a road trip. Do you think he brought that many suits with him? He's on a road trip with his team.
There's also no dress code for being a coach. Like, coaches show up to whatever work. I don't know. That was just such a strange detail for everyone to just accept as, yeah, that's a bad sign.
It's also kind of funny knowing, and I mean, obviously we don't know one way or the other if this is the case, but knowing how Frost was like, yeah, I didn't really want to take that job, or I wasn't really like, it wasn't the right time. Wondering if he was like, I don't really care about this. So like,
I actually had the exact same thought. And again, national college football people or Nebraska people can like say whatever they want. That's not like our opinion. We know that for a fact. He was deeply conflicted about taking the job. He really, and that sounds insane because he was the Nebraska Golden Boy, really didn't want the job. I think he wanted it 3 years later. I don't think he wanted it then. But anyway, that being said, the immature comment from Godfrey was interesting. I guess my point on that I always get back, because they said that they're like, oh, he was immature all the way back in 2014 and then he failed in Nebraska. So yeah, good call. And I'm always just like, We do remember him at UCF. Like that did happen.
Yeah.
He did go undefeated at one point, which is something very few head coaches have done ever. So I don't know.
So,
will he work this time? Guys, we just don't know. I think we're going to know by the end of this coming season, though. I do think so. But right now,
none of that stuff makes sense, man. Like, he's like, yeah, I interviewed him in 2014. Okay, that was 12 years ago.
I like that podcast a lot, and I absolutely don't want to, like, those are, like, obviously, I've never met any of them. Love them all, though. Like, great listen, great podcast. I do recommend that podcast.
Andy Staples, I think, at the Senior Bowl.
I wish you'd said hi and said that.
I didn't like, I saw his face and I was like, he looks so familiar. And like, I took 2 steps past him and I was like, I think that was Andy Staples.
Yeah. But, like I said, like I recommend the podcast. If you're if you're a college football fan and you just like more higher level college football stuff, like the nitty gritty of it, it's an awesome listen. I was really confused by that whole segment because it's just like, 12 years ago, he struck me as immature. So bad guy. I don't know. We'll see. That being said, I really don't know if this is going to work. It might have been an insane hire. We say it all the time. If it fails, no one's going to be like, wow. Like we will sit here and be like, yeah, we understand that was a risk. This failing.
I think I feel oddly like more optimistic, and I guess it's easy to feel this way in February, but I feel more optimistic now than I did when they hired him.
I do and I don't. I do. This is going to be the longest podcast ever. I do in some ways. I think that the setup with Mossbrucker and them sort of taking a lot of that off Frost's plate, a lot of the stuff because that was my number one concern of hiring him was this guy has never coached in this era. It's a wildly different sport. And the things he was good at in 2016 and 2017 are a much smaller part of being the head coach. But it seems like they've set up a system where they're really allowing the things that he's best at to be the largest parts of his job. Now, how sustainable is that in modern college football? I don't know. Everyone's kind of figuring it out together, but so from that perspective, I feel better, but I just kind of have these moments of clarity sometimes where like, and this is going to sound so silly, but like, it'll just be like a random, like Wednesday or Tuesday at like 1 p.m. and I'll see a headline about him as UCF's head coach. And I'm just like, man, they really didn't have to do that. Like that was probably crazy to make that decision.
We've talked about that at the time, though. I think they did. Like, I think they owed it to themselves to try it.
I know. And I said that at the time, so I can't go back now and say no, but I go back and forth. I mean, I was bipolar as hell that whole. I did a show. We did like that Sun's Breakfast live show where I got on there and I said it would be absolutely insane to hire him as head coach. And then 2 days later, I was like, maybe they should. Like it was just a very weird, emotional week for UCF fans because it went from like obviously insane to it leaks out that they're really talking, and at the same time, kind of some of the other candidates who were up and hand up. Like I wanted Jamie Chadwell. When he was in it, I thought that was going to be a good hire, and he had an awful year at Liberty this year. So I don't know. Like it's all just a crapshoot at the end of the day. So maybe they owe it to themselves to see, but like I don't know. It's just really hard to come back from 2 bad hires in a row. So it was a pretty big risk from that perspective. And at the same time, we talk about like the hires they were in on were like the hot names for the cycle, and it was a pretty light cycle for big names. But at the same time, you and I have talked about before. I'm a big believer, and I think Kurt Signetti has proved it. Don't want to act like we're smarter than athletic directors, but I also feel like not UCF specific, but college football in general, ADs do seem to get in their heads sometime a lot. I'm a big believer, and there's probably some head coach at the FCS level right now who you don't know his name and I don't know his name. He'd probably come in here and win 10 games. But college football is a very retread friendly sport, and a lot of schools don't like making hires like that. I think we're about to see that change pretty tectonically because of what Indiana's done. But so I don't know. It's just, I'm not going to sit here and say there were no other candidates, but you can't ignore the fact that Scott Frost was a candidate for, of the 136 FBS jobs, he was a realistic candidate for one of them, and it was UCF. I don't think any other school, I don't think Buffalo or anyone could have justified to their fan base and their administration making that hire last year. So I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. Oh, it stayed consistent. Like obviously, it would be so cool if it does work. Just don't know. We'll find out. Dr. Drew asks, staying competitive means raising money behind rev share. What creative things can UCF do to raise more? One school asks if you want to round up for NIL at all concessions, just as an example. Does UCF do that? I feel like they do, but I might made that up. Maybe I just read that another school did that.
The press box, I haven't bought concessions from that stadium since I was a wee lad, so I really don't know. That's a tough one, and I honestly like the thing about rev share and that, because that's a big thing that a lot of fans have, kind of rightfully so, but we have to get creative. Like you got to find interesting ways, and like the roundup, whatever. It's like, you don't realize how much money this takes, like it really, like stuff like that. I think it's like headline grabbing sometimes when schools say they're doing stuff like that, or like, oh, we did this, or like, like there's this donation thing, or we put like the kids' Venmo on the screen, whatever. It's so marginal compared to like the money you really need. Like when you think about like $20,000 sounds like a lot of money, right? Like if UCF was like, we added this NIL roundup concession thing, we made $20,000 from it during this game. $20,000 is like a percentage point of a good quarterback's NIL deal. Like it's just not like the money's so big now that every dollar counts kind of has lost meaning a little bit because it's actually not true. You need what UCF needs to figure out. And it's kind of like that statement they put out a while ago. They don't need to figure out small little creative ways to find more money. They need to find corporate partners and big time donors who are going to hand over major checks now.
Yeah.
That's what they need to get to the next level. It's not the more gimmicky, like Danny White being like, help us pay for our goalposts or even the thing UCF did, which is kind of like a weird clunky version of this when they got fined for storming the court and they were like, donate $9.02 because we were up 9 with 0.2 seconds to go. Like, I don't know how successful that was, but yeah, it's more about finding the big corporate partners and the big money donations than getting creative with small stuff. So I don't know. It can't hurt. Like, yeah, it's money, but I also think there is a risk in some ways because I do think there's a lot of fan fatigue right now for getting hit up for money, not for UCF, but for college football in general, because it's always been a fans pay first, money driven sport. But like these last few years, like you can't open Twitter without some school begging someone for money in some strange new way. And I do think that you run the risk of like every promotion might sound fun if UCF came up with something like, oh, we tacked on like a $1 tax on parking tickets or something. But like you run the risk of really pissing off your fan base if it breaks containment or just gets taken the wrong way. Because I think a lot of fans are sick of getting hit up for money at this point.
Definitely. I mean, it's not even just the fans getting sick of being asked for money, but it's also just I think there's a lot of people who are not happy with how the sport has changed. Even if they're not being asked for money, it's just like you talk to a lot of people and they're just like, yeah, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. And
what happened in the game I love?
Yeah, a lot of that. So sure, I mean, it has to. You have to kind of be careful with all that. As far as any ideas, like I honestly I could not think of anything other than like, yeah, the rounding up makes some sense, I guess. But again, how much is that doing? I don't know.
I think that like, and this is so a violation that I think they could do. I think they should have like for the final game of the season, like PA announcers, like fans, turn your attention to Jumbotron, and it's playing like Alonzo Barnett highlights. And it's like, he currently plays for JMU. Like, click the QR code to donate to make him a knight. Like, I think we should let's dare the NCAA. What's the NCAA going to do? They don't enforce anything. What are they going to do? They should try it. UCF should put on the Jumbotron. We're going to tamper with this guy. Help us. Try it. It's the worst that could happen.
Charlie Hughes asks, what have we heard on the development of Laparca Langston, Justin Royez, and any of the freshman O-line from last year? Nothing really on Langston that I can think of off the top of my head. I know they're excited about Royez. He went down with an injury. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, I think. He went down with an injury in spring ball and missed the season. And then I know freshman-wise, the one name that's been floated out there is Jacob Mayava.
I was going to say the name that's not on there that I'd probably say that we probably heard the most good stuff about as far as like younger O-linemen would be Jacob Mayava. So, which you never know. This is a tale as old as time where you hear good things about a freshman and they never play. So I'm not promising anything, but yeah, definitely have his name on that list too. I haven't heard, I think we've heard much of anything about Laparca Langston, to be totally honest. Which was
like, given the kind of fanfare from when they signed him.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was going to be a factor, and he still could.
Maybe he will be. Yeah, got to go do spring ball.
Haven't heard anything thus far. Richard Dunlop says, seems like Frost is going to emphasize speed. How do you feel that will translate into the current Big 12 competition? Honestly, like as bad as the offense was last year, it felt like speed-wise they weren't like getting outclassed in that department.
I love when we agree before we talk about stuff because that was my take was speed really hasn't been the problem these first 3 years. Yeah. They've had plenty of speed. They've had a lot, pretty much everywhere, to be honest. It's the physicality where they've been getting beat, especially in the trenches. And I do think there's a bit of a misconception about the Big 12 because some stuff just sticks. Like a lot of people believe that the Big 12 had a very ingrained reputation for a long time of it is this fast-paced, high-flying, offense first, defense doesn't matter, crazy games, 63-56. And like that was true like in the early 2010s, like mid 2010s, like that was like it. That was the Big 12. That had a very clear identity. As conferences have expanded, the concept of conference identity on the field has kind of vanished. It's actually weird to think about now. Like when we were kids, like the ACC and the Big Ten all played very different football from each other. That's kind of gone because these conferences are just huge and they span the continent. And because that stuff was always based really on recruiting footprints. Like different parts of the country were better at producing different types of players. So like the Southern teams played a certain way. The Southern teams tend to have a really good lineman. The West Coast teams had a harder time with size, but they could be really fast. Same for some Midwest programs. That's all kind of gone. But the current Big 12 is a pretty physical league. And there's some really good defenses in this league. And there are some teams that really do beat you with just size and physicality. So that's where I'm curious if UCF will match up. And it's not an either or. Like you have to emphasize both. Like you have to have speed at the skill positions, but you have to have some physicality too. And you got to be tough in the trenches. I think my biggest fear for this season is the number one issue for UCF 3 years in has been getting there in the trenches. And on both sides of the ball, I'm just not sure if they're there this year. So we'll see.
Like I even think about obviously Texas Tech, and the example that I always think it comes to mind is obviously the one that hits closest to home, and that's with Lee Hunter. And I know like they spend a lot of money on beefing up the trenches. So it's not a thing where like UCF can't compete and they're on the same level speed wise. It really is just, and I don't know. I like some of the pieces they've added on the offensive line. I hopefully like we'll get to know a little bit more about them during spring. And then I think they did as well as they could have to kind of rebuild that defensive line rotation, losing, John Walker and losing some guys to just, I don't know, out of eligibility to the draft and all that. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. And it's kind of speaking on that, Richard also asked, who did you like from the O-line players we retained from the previous season? Is there enough talent to work with the handful of O-line players added? I think so. I mean, I think Cushman was a good retention. I know Carter Miller went to South Carolina. I wasn't overly pleased with how he played last year, and I don't know. I think they brought in a lot, and now it's just about where it fits, and hopefully they find the right spots for him. I don't know. That's a hard question to answer here in February before we've seen anything.
I do agree with you that I think Cushman was the biggest. We had a couple moments on the podcast this past year where we'd be like, man, O-line is terrible. Except you, Cushman, you're doing great. Like he was not bad, and I'm happy they were able to hold on to him. Carter Miller, I don't think you or I envisioned he would have a role here next year anyway. So it was a little bit of a surprise when an SEC team jumps in on him. Not the only player South Carolina did that with. They also went and got DJ Black, again, a player who I thought was fine, but not someone you'd be like, breaking down your boosters' doors to retain. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they brought an interesting group of guys. They brought in a lot of guys. I absolutely think there's room for a rotation there. And like Connor Meadows, there's some other guys they retained too who can factor in. It's just so hard to know. I know that's such a cop-out answer, but it's really hard to know in February with the O-line.
Yeah.
We're not going to know until like game 4, if we're being totally honest.
That is true. The next one is from Danny Ocean. He says, based on remaining schedule, where do you think our final standing will be for our seeding in the Big 12 tournament? I think right around where it is right now. I mean, I know they have a little bit of a lighter schedule down the stretch outside of the BYU game, but right now they are 8th or 9th, I think it is.
It's pretty critical though, because aren't 8 and up get buys and 9 and down?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that game at West Virginia, I mean, blowing that game against West Virginia was costly. Yeah. They do play West Virginia again. I believe that's the regular season finale. So that's going to be a huge one. Beating BYU would also be huge, given that they're 7-5 in conference, UCF 7-6. But it's all bunched up right there. After the top 5, it's BYU, West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and Cincinnati all within a game of each other.
I don't really know if your UCF what a bye does for you in this situation, because you're not actually trying to win the conference here. And you could actually sort of make a weird argument that the first round gives you a chance to notch another win against the team you can probably beat. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it really matters a ton for their tournament hopes one way or another if they get that bye or not.
I do. Yeah. I kind of do feel like by the time the regular season's over, we will know one way or the other. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't see, unless they collapse here down the stretch, then we would say, oh, they need to make a little bit of a run.
Yeah.
And win a game or two in the tournament. But if they can kind of just put themselves in a good position by the end of the regular season, I think.
But even then, it's like at Utah. You have to win at Utah. They're really bad. Get that win. Then it's at number 23 BYU, Baylor at home, and Oklahoma State at home. Both of those are very winnable. At West Virginia, it's like get Utah, and then like just you might be fine actually there, but like literally just get one of the others.
Yeah.
We're probably done talking about this at that point. So yeah.
And again, with the way the schedule sets up, I think they can and should beat Utah, and I think they could win 2 of those other ones.
I think so too.
So they'd really be sitting pretty at that point. Danny also asked, what did you get each other for Valentine's Day? The answer would be nothing.
You sent me a tweet on Valentine's Day, and the tweet was like, you're alone on Valentine's Day because you're ugly and no one wants to be with you. So does that count as a gift?
No. And also, for the record, I think I sent it to our group chat, and
you sent it like implying it was for you, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. But most of my humor and most of the tweets that I send that are mean are directed at myself. It's as if I tweeted them, and then I'm like letting you all know, hey, this is what's going through my brain right now.
Sounds about right. I'm sorry I didn't get you anything.
It's okay.
Next time you're in Orlando, I'll get a little. Those chocolate boxes probably on clearance by now, right? It's Valentine's Day. So.
Nasty chocolate. Like,
what do they do with all those? Later. Because like I'll go into a store like the Thursday before Valentine's Day, and everything like I'll be like, I need to go get paper towels, and they're like, oh, sorry, we've replaced the paper towel section with chocolate. And I'm like, well, that seems excessive. But then if I go there on Sunday, it's all gone. Like, do they just get like what happens to all the chocolate? There's no way everyone's buying all that. Like, did they just throw it out? Like, I don't know. They should put in like clearance bins or something. I'll go buy some.
They do.
Myself. Do they?
Like, I know that like, if you go, and it's like kind of the same thing with like Halloween candies. Like if you go right after the holiday, they still have a little bit, or they still have some left, and it's cheaper.
I live next to Walgreens. I'm about to run in there and see if they just have like.
There's no way, even when it's all cheaper, there's no way it all gets bought up. So that is a good question. Like, what happens then?
I don't know. I hope they have like and someone buys it next year. When I was a kid, we're at 51 minutes, so let's take a tangent. When I was a kid, we would do like Easter, like you get an Easter basket, and my mom would always get me this big like chocolate bunny, like huge chocolate bunny, and I just there's a bunch of other candy in there, like how you remember Easter, how it goes. And I would like eat a bunch of chocolate. And I would always like kind of forget about the big bunny just because like there's so much other stuff in there. And it's like a big, those bunnies are like novelty. They're not actually fun to eat. So like I'd always forget about it.
Oh, they're extremely difficult to eat.
Yeah. And I found
a challenge, so it's fun.
So I found out when I was an adult that my mom gave me the same bunny every year. I would not eat it. She would put it in the freezer in our garage. And then the next Easter, she'd give it to me again. And that was my entire childhood. I received one chocolate bunny that I never got around to eating. So I wouldn't put it past these corporations. They're just putting the stuff on ice and they're just throwing it back out next year.
Gosh, that's probably what happens. A very cynical way to look at it and probably true. But I was just about to say before that story, like I hope there's some sort of program where they like take it to like a homeless shelter or something. Probably don't, but whatever. I don't know.
That also seems kind of backhanded in a way. Like I feel like homeless people have more important things to eat than like here's chocolate. Like not like shelter.
I'm sure if you're in a shelter, like I'm sure they wouldn't turn down chocolate.
Okay, let's get out of this conversation. Let's get out of this. Let's get away from.
E. Alvarez 1211 says you're presented a bargain where UCF football will win a championship within the next 3 years, but it means they can never wear any form of pewter again. Do you take that deal?
Yes, because I don't expect them to ever wear any form of pewter again anyway. They appear to have. It appears that as long as Terry Mohajir is the athletic director, Peter will not return. And by the time he's gone, it will have been so far in the rear view. And also it'll be so covered in advertisements and crap by that point, now that they've like approved all this stuff. So yeah, fine. Give me the championship.
Listen, I love Pewter. And even if you told me that they were going to bring it back next year, if I don't take this deal, I would still take the deal. Yes. I want to see them win a championship.
Yep.
Next question from E. Alvarez. Top 3 stadiums you'd love to see UCF play a road game in?
AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 championship.
Is that a road game?
No.
I
don't know. Is this just where I want to go on vacation, or is this like very specifically like an environment I'd like to see them in?
Probably like stadium environment, I would imagine. The first thought I had was Neyland.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I know people are probably expecting me to say LSU. I'd rather not be put in the situation to have to root against LSU going to LSU.
We've seen them. I've seen him in the Big House. I've seen him in the Horseshoe. Neither of those did anything for me. I think I don't care. I think my answer in a weird way. I don't think I care. You know, like I care more about them. Like there's not like it'd be so wild to see them in this environment. I've seen them at Happy Valley. Like they've actually played in a lot of these. Really, I don't know. I'm not super moved by this.
I like if they were good, and like I'd like to see UCF Florida State at Doak.
Oh yeah, and they were the Swamp. They didn't do anything for me either. Maybe this is a thing I don't care about. I think that I know a lot of people do this, so I'll try to throw together an answer here. I very weirdly feel like it's for some reason in my brain them at Notre Dame, them at Texas A&M for some reason, and them at USC are the ones that are standing out my brain as like, oh, that'd be pretty wild to see them there. I don't know why.
I've got an answer too. Is going to happen actually is the new Northwestern Stadium because I just want to go back to Chicago.
And the new stadium looks Chicago, man.
The new stadium looks actually pretty cool. So we'll be doing that one. I will be doing that one.
Do we need to move into speed round mode? Because I think we have a few left and we're at 55.
We've got 3 left, I think. So yeah.
Okay.
Did you see the Big 12? Marquise asked, did you see the Big 12 podcast with possible realignment or conference merger with the ACC and UCF was not in the plan? I didn't see that.
So I didn't see that either. And I saw that tweet a couple days ago and was like, I was originally going to go look for it. And then I was like, I really don't need to. I can't police what these other podcasts say. I guess what I'm confused on for the question is I don't understand. Was this like a BS rumor they were trying to say they had, or was this just them having fun? And if you're a UCF fan who for some reason is concerned about this, I can alleviate your concern by assuring you that there will never be such a thing as a Big 12 ACC merger. That makes no sense for anybody involved. And that everyone kind of wink, wink, nod, nod understands that in the next realignment wave, which is expected in 2030 and 2031, the ACC will be the league hemorrhaging teams. Everyone knows that North Carolina and Virginia, it's already been reported by reputable sources that they have pretty much open offers from the SEC once they can get other deals. Everyone kind of understands that once the floodgates are open, Clemson, Florida State, Miami will probably find ways out as well. So the ACC is the ACC is living their Pac-12 life in a few years. So I don't really know where the more merger thing you might see is what happens from that point on. We don't know. And it's impossible to predict realignment. It's even more impossible to predict years out. But does that look like they come and get Big 12 teams? I think it's more likely the Big 12 probably takes some ACC teams. Yeah. Do the Big 10 and SEC at that point break off entirely? I don't know. So, but don't worry, guys. There's not going to be a situation where the ACC and Big 12 announce we've decided to merge to become like a 38-team league, but we're ditching UCF. Don't worry. Not going to happen.
Yeah. We're actually on the last one now.
Because we had to cut. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to you guys who asked basketball-related questions before the TCU game. That was our fault for sending the mailbag out very early. Sorry.
Yeah. My UCF burner account, not mine, but the account is called My UCF Burner Account. Christian, you once said if you're going to get paid a bunch of money to go somewhere else, do it. I'd do it. What's the minimum to host a weekly USF podcast? You can call it the Tourist Podcast. You have to be all in, the same level of detail analysis you bring to the Pegasus Podcast.
Minimum amount. It'd be pretty it wouldn't be insane. It wouldn't be make me a millionaire. I'm trying to think about this real life. I'm trying to really think what's the dollar amount I'd do it for.
It'd have to be somewhat significant.
Yeah, it'd have to be because my quality of life would have to change as a result. Because I really hate
we put in it does. This is time consuming.
It is very time consuming, and it's not just doing the podcast. We both have jobs outside of this. You have 2. Because you do your Buck stuff as well, which is basically a full-time job. You have 2 full-time jobs. I still don't know how you do that. I have a full-time job on top of this. I have other I have freelance things I do outside of this that aren't the podcast. The biggest thing for me would be I feel like the thing I invest the most time in is research and learning and knowledge expansion for the podcast. And doing that for USF would imply that I don't have time to do it for UCF anymore. So that's holding me up more than just how much I don't like. Because not liking their fans, I don't like UCF fans anyways. That wouldn't be a giant change for me. That's just par for the course. If I was told I have to do it, and I'd get I'd say if I was going to get $120,000 a year for doing the podcast, I'd do it. Sure, why not? Because I still have my money for my job, so I'd be yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah,
120,000, I'll host a USF podcast. So if anyone's interested, if USF is instead of NIL, we're going to give Christian Simmons $120,000 to be a big USF guy. I'll do it.
Here's what we know our fans would really like. If we got a guy who hates USF to do a USF podcast. That'll work.
I mean, it's all great. It's a tough comparison because also like the amount of money we get for doing this podcast is zero because we refuse to monetize, and I'm still firm on that. So, it's all gravy, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your questions, everyone. Even those of you who sent like 6 and 1, and JP Gilbert, who I believe sent 3,
including one that was just insane. But yeah.
And another one that is just tired at this point.
Can I say something really quickly though, since we're over an hour on the topic of the JP question? JP asked a question about baseball. It's just not a thing that we can say on the podcast. You can go see it on Twitter. At the same time though, I fear that the Key West bus ride is going to become like a recurring thing in my brain for baseball that I'm going to use repeatedly this season because I was already thinking about that. If you know what we're talking about, Matt Michelle published a story for the Orlando Sentinel, and I'm just going to give the tagline of the story, which was it was like a preseason thing. They took a bus trip from Key West to Orlando, and like everything changed on the bus trip is the tagline. And like I'm watching the game last night, Miami hits the homer to win, and I'm just like they didn't count for this on the bus trip. They should have said on the bus trip, hey, what do we do if we're at 3 hit by pitches? What, like maybe that should have been a conversation on the bus trip. So,
all right, I was gonna say more. I just can't get back into that game.
We're gonna
watch it.
We're gonna do a podcast, and it's gonna be an investigative series. It's gonna be called Pegasus Podcast Spotlight or something. Like we're gonna come with like
Pegasus Podcast finds out,
and it's got Pegasus Podcast finds out.
Shout out Pablo Torre.
Shout out Pablo Torre, and it's gonna be what happened on the bus. What happened on the bus?
Everything changed. Well, I already put that tweet out. I was like, they went through a vortex, and it's just an entirely different group of people now.
We should do. I'm dead serious, guys. If you guys want to participate, I'm kind of tempted. I want to put out a tweet from the Pegasus Podcast account. We'll read them on the podcast where I want to list things that you think might have happened on the bus, and we'll just come up with a list, and we're just gonna write in our history. That's everything that happened. I don't know. Aliens invaded. Like who knows? Like yeah.
Everything changed.
I have a feeling like the JFK assassination's tied in. Like it's just like who even knows? Like it's just crazy.
Somebody revealed what really went down, and it changed everyone's perspective on everything. Football news.
Walt Disney's head is on the bus. Like it's crazy.
All right, we gotta stop. I gotta get out of here. Football news. Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Kelly received NFL Combine invites, so I will get a chance to ask them their favorite UCF uniform combinations in Indianapolis next week. So looking forward to that. Assistant defensive line coach Dimitri Brim, he was hired away to serve in the same role, assistant defensive line coach with the Dallas Cowboys, which is honestly pretty cool rise for him. Former UCF Knight, came back as assistant defensive line coach, now going to the NFL. And the UCF Fastcast is back for a season 2. Dwayne Thomas Jr. and Waden Charles are co-hosting it, replacing Miles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon. I had wondered about all that. I think we talked about it at one point. It's like I wonder how they go about finding out who's going to do it next, and now we know. So their first.
I'd assumed it was just going to end because they were so good at it last year, Miles and Jaden. So like, I'm excited. Very cool.
Yeah. I haven't gone and watched the first one yet, but I probably will in the next few days. So, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. Game of the week. We talked about it earlier. UCF men's basketball back out on the road on Saturday. They're at Utah. UCF is 18-7, 7-6 in the Big 12. Utah is 9-16, 1-11 in the Big 12. Game tips off Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Obviously, a must win. This is a bad Utah team, and you've got to take the games that are there for the taking. So
can't screw this.
Got to get another one. Get to 19-7 and 8.
It's on the road. So I'm actually mildly worried, just because it just feels like the type of thing that could happen. So I'm a little freaked out, but it'll be fine.
The fact that it's on the road, and then I know it's like not going to really bother them. It's just more so like, couldn't you see us sitting on our respective couches at like 11:15 p.m. Saturday night and just being like, I cannot believe they lost that game.
That I can see that exactly. So yeah, can't wait.
Tweet of the week.
Tweet of the week. Tweet of the week this week was going to be a basketball related tweet where I was going to get mad at you guys, and I just did that so much over the course of the episode. I don't really think it's necessary, so I'm just going to skip it. I'm going to put some love out in the world and just say, hey guys, can't we all be friends? Even the people whose opinions are stupid, can't we be friends?
I don't think you're allowed to say. I don't think you're allowed to say that. Sure. Yeah,
UCF's going to be like they're going to like make a run to the Final Four. Like they're going to do like some FAU-esque whatever and get there, and they're going to get blown out the Final Four. And that same 15% of the fan base is going to be like, to be that close to a championship and choke it away. Dawkins is washed. Get him out of here.
Dawkins can't get them over the hump. He can't get them over the hump and win a national championship. So.
Maybe if they'd taken a bus ride from Key West, they would have had what it took.
Oh, goodness. All right. We'll get out of here. I was going to say we'll be back next week. We actually won't because I'll be in Indianapolis. We are taking next week off. We very rarely take weeks off, so it's going to be a little weird. But we'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 320. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We will talk to you relatively soon.
Bye, everybody.